Greetings, ladies and germs. My name is Dustin Cormier, and welcome to another episode of How to Rock Astrology. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Today we're going to be talking about the one and only Moon in Sagittarius. This happens to be my own natal sign. I am a Tropical Vedic Astrologer. I abide by what tropical Western measurements, but I apply Vedic philosophy and understanding to them. Today in particular, we are talking about Sagittarius Moon with Scorpio Venus. Now, this is one of the better placements for Venus to be for Sagittarius Moon. In terms of Venus not being starved by the moon. Now, you might have seen in some of my other videos, I talk about how the moon and Venus are, well, this is what I always like to say here, just so you know it's where I'm coming from with this. When it comes to Vedic astrology, trines and squares and opposition aspects, oppositions and squares are considered bad in the West and trines are considered good. In Vedic astrology, it's really more about what the relationship of two planets is. If the moon is in any trine or an opposition aspect from Venus, then the moon is going to starve Venus, because the moon is an enemy to Venus, but Venus is neutral to the moon. How it's conveyed is that the needs that we enjoy having for ourselves through the moon will overtake Venus's ability to reciprocate in relationships when that happens. Now, this is a combination where that does not occur. The Venus and the moon are not at gross angles to each other, or at angles, or whatever. So the Venus here, being in the 12th house from the moon, is not starved by the moon. Furthermore, Venus is in the sign of a neutral planet to Venus. Mars and Venus are neutral to each other. So Venus, being in the sign of a neutral planet, really, this neutrality kind of means that the strength and position of Mars is going to convey whether this Venus has the strength to abide by what Venus essentially needs and wants and desires. If Mars has good strength in its own right, this will help this Venus communicate, because this is a Venus that needs to pull its own dignity in a relationship that probably feels like power dynamics are kind of a constant reality for this consciousness. But the power dynamics, when they work well, work very satisfyingly well. That's why it's important for Mars to be well placed and for the urgency of Mars to be put in a way that it doesn't sabotage the genuine needs of Venus doing what Venus is supposed to do, which is to be a diplomatic equalizer of the water chakra. We're going to talk about how both of these feminine planets that uphold the Svadhisthana chakra, the water chakra, are both in masculine signs. The moon in particular is in a dire position, but Venus here is getting away from its debilitation point, and it's in a sign that is neutral, which means it's not necessarily inherently really good or bad by this sign position. And we'll talk about how if the Mars is strong for Venus, then it can abide by its needs without being walked on or stepped on in a way. And then it can actually have the vitality to feel like it's not getting ripped off, to feel like it's not being abused. And then it can share the power dynamic by being a person, really, in the relationship who conveys the importance of sharing and serving each other in a way. And it can make for a very passionate lover that likes to serve in some good, interesting ways and fun ways for both parties. That's essentially, especially when Mars is doing well. If Mars, just to pop it off, if Mars in this position is being starved by its enemy, Mercury, for example, the person will overthink and try to strategize. And, Mars is an instinctive planet, so it'll get lost in Mars will get lost in conversation about how much you're supposed to be doing for me and how much I'm supposed to be doing for you, how much I expect you to be there for me and how much you expect me to be there for you. And, Mars needs to be instinctive in the way that it grasps for its own boundaries, its own noble aspirations. And if the Mars is, starved by an enemy like Mercury, or if it's in the same sign as Saturn, there's going to be things happening that make you less able to uphold your instinctive need for the things that you need to be the best Venus in Scorpio that you can, to have the best Venus that you can. Because as we're going to talk about, this is a situation that's rather precarious because of the moon in Sagittarius. The moon in Sagittarius is one sign away from its debilitation in Scorpio. It's in a masculine sign, and it can lack water Svadhisthana chakra because, as I often talk about in these videos, the moon, which is half of the rulership of the Svadhisthana chakra, the water chakra, is being funneled through the Manipura chakra. And it's especially because the moon in Sagittarius is right next door to its debilitation in Scorpio. The moon actually, it does okay in Pisces, which is ruled by Jupiter as well. It's more of a feminine placement, so it can listen and instinctively listens to others outside of its own sphere of sound. And it's closer to Taurus. When the moon is in Sagittarius, it's right next door to its debilitation point, which debilitation works by proximity, as I often say. And it's in the masculine sign of a masculine planet, Jupiter, Sagittarius. Now, for more on that, I recommend that you check out my Moon in Sagittarius video that I just did. It's about an hour long. I put a lot of juice and effort into it because I myself am Sagittarius Moon, and I feel like I enjoyed doing that video, and I come from my own place of experience. So, one thing that does need to be said about this combination is that Venus here is in the 12th house from the moon. And this is another thing that we're going to kind of talk a little bit about. And what it kind of essentially means is that you might have experiences where you probably Venus wants to enjoy what Venus does, which is a water planet, which is a diplomatic planet. So you probably want to be in a pushy relationship in a way, especially because the Sag moon in particular makes this the case. You are an independent person who has your own aspirations for career and passionate hobbies and skill crafting and these sorts of things. And at some level, you might even want to include your lover in your things that you do. But the moon in Sagittarius is so independent as a sign. It's so expansive and masculine in the way that the moon is, that it makes you kind of janky, like you jive to your own thing, which makes it difficult to plan things with your partner, to really be lockstep with your partner when engaging in the power plays that Venus and Scorpio tends to engage in and talk about. When I say power plays, it's just basically like, how much time are you spending with me? And, I know that you are going off and doing this in your career, but I was thinking that we should go to my cottage on the May 2-4 weekend, and I know you want to hang with the boys, but, this is the person with Sag Moon with Venus and Scorpio as like a woman, for example. The husband wants to go and hang with the boys, but honey, we gotta have this experience with my people at this cottage at this time. And the kind of power plays that can kind of happen from this sort of thing are something you actually at some level enjoy engaging in. And when it comes down to it, Venus and Scorpio works best by this sort of, ultimately like, okay, you can go up to the cottage with the boys if you want. And it's almost like, you'll probably want to go with the person to the cottage with the boys. Or the two of you might be independent. You might even say, you might be on the other end of this. Being somebody who says to your partner, I want to go up to the cottage with the boys and I want to be alone. And I don't necessarily want to have anyone with me. It's generally not the case. Venus and Scorpio likes to kind of do things together as a power couplish sort of way. Although the Sag moon likes to be independent. And this is part of the 12th house energy that happens with the moon in Sagittarius with Venus in Scorpio. is that you have such an independence energy where you are bound to spend energy coming away from the deep passion that you derive from your sentimental connections and funneling that relaxed, rejuvenated energy. You know, Scorpio is about regeneration. You like to funnel that regenerated vitality into whatever it is that you do to contribute to the relationship at the numbers level, at the prestige level. And that might even just mean money in your coffers, where the partner wants to hang out with you for May 2 for a weekend, but I've got this great opportunity with my boss to go and do a business trip, and we're going to go fishing, and I'm going to hang out with him, and I'm going to talk with him about all the skills that I have going into this sector next year and owning my own part of the company over here. All of this is kind of like, honey, I got to do this. And then the partner is like, are you sure that this isn't just you going and just having a fishing trip with your boss? You establishing the importance of saying that you've got to be able to do this thing is part of this power dynamic that I talk about. And ultimately, you are a passionate person. This Venus does not have the dryness that some of the other combinations of Sagittarius Moon with Venus in other places. Sometimes the moon starves Venus, like I said, but not with this combination. So the 12th house experience sort of means that internally you feel like Venus is not getting fully what it wants because you have to wrangle through some kind of power dynamic or through your pushing of being able to do your independent thing, but then ultimately taking time to still have the sentimental connection with the lover and do things together. And you won't be able to do things together with your partner, likely, as much as you would really like to, because this is the nature of Venus being in the 12th house from the moon. But being in the 12th house from the moon is not the same as being in the 12th house from the rising sign. There's actual physical losses that happen when it's in the 12th house from the rising sign. With the moon, it just means that you are internally feeling like you're not as satisfied. The Venus isn't getting the full sharing of Scorpio Venus with its partner, rocking and rolling at that cottage with all your friends in the way that you would really like to, because there's a gripped independence that you seek to make your time together that much more special by gripping independent things that you go and do on your own. And it's the time you spend go off doing your thing on your own that makes your time with your partner that much more special. Now, this is pretty par for Venus and Scorpio at a certain level. But in particular, it's the Sagittarius Moon with the Venus in the 12th house from the moon, this Venus in Scorpio, that gives the feeling like I'm not, at some level, when you do things with your partner, you lose a bit of your independence that the Sagittarius Moon wants to build on its own thing in its own way. On the other hand, when you do things independently, the Venus in Scorpio gets the 12th house feeling of loss, the 12th house feeling that I could have spent this weekend with my lover. And at some level, you're always going to feel like I wish I was doing the other thing. But this goes to show that sometimes when it comes to your energy field, our internal subjective experience of what our energy is doing has expectations and anticipations, and that's not really relevant to what is ultimately on the scorecard. So there's plenty of people with this combination whose scorecard reads that I spent half as much of my time with my lover and half as much of my time doing things myself, and ultimately I did get both experiences. At some level, you might always internally feel emotionally, like because you spread it out, that you never got enough of either. But if you stick only to one, it's the less, I think, ultimately, it's the less proper thing. But with a caveat, at some level, this combination in particular should really consider leaning towards listening to your partner and spending time with your partner. The reason is because this Venus is still only 2 signs away from Virgo, where it's debilitated. And the moon is 1 sign away from Scorpio, where it's debilitated. And this means that at some level, what's probably going to happen, Venus being in Scorpio, which is a male sign ruled by Mars, both of these planets in the Svadhisthana chakra, Venus and the moon, rule the Svadhisthana chakra, the water chakra, the second chakra. And they're both kind of being funneled through the heat of the masculine planets, Mars and Jupiter. So they're both being funneled through the Manipura chakra at some level instinctively. This is a Venus in Scorpio, which wants to attract a partner who appreciates what you do with your powerful, lusty passion with other people outside of the relationship. Not necessarily in a lusty, flirtatious way, but really, ultimately, you want a partner. You're going to attract a partner who appreciates that you don't need to hug the rail and grip in a needy way your partner's attention and time all the time. But what happens, especially for women with this combination, is that you get appreciated for your ability to not be needy. And what ends up happening is that you actually become needy because of the fact that you're putting a lot of time doing other things with other people, and it becomes like, I miss my lover, I miss my partner. But I should say it's not just women, it's men, and it's everything in between that can have this experience, because the water planets of what we are, of who we're with, the water planets, the moon and Venus, represent the Svadhisthana chakra. And this represents what we are, what we have. It's our connections to the life force of our loved ones, of our family that are around us. The sun is what we do from 9 to 5. The sun is the life path, and so is Mars and Jupiter in a way. It's what we're doing with our lives. The feminine planets relate more to what we are, what we have, and who we have around us, and who we spend our time with. And so these water planets are supposed to be channeling support and water and love from the universe around you, so that on your way up the mountain of doing what you want to do with the sun, you have some water that you drink and you think, there's more to life than just getting to the destination. The journey is all part of it. We can tell ourselves this philosophically, but ultimately it's the people around us that we have sentimental memories with that ground our experience of the laughter that we've had. So we don't live in an echo chamber of our own silence. That's very descriptive of Sagittarius Moon, if you understand where I'm at there, coming from a Sagittarius Moon. So the moon in Sagittarius, by being debilitated in the way that it is kind of saved by this Venus. The Venus is not starved by the moon. And if you have a Venus that's, remember, these are just these planets by sign. The moon in Sagittarius can be like not narcissistic. If it's close to full moon, it does better. If it's waxing, the moon does better. If it is got strong, what's called Shadbala, which is total planetary strength in Vedic astrology, the moon does better. If it's angled and supported by aspect by its friends Mercury and the Sun, it does better. As well, if it has an aspect to Jupiter. Jupiter is the great benefic that helps anything that it touches. These are all things that can help the moon be less dry in this way. At the same time, Venus, even though it's in a, more of a neutral place, although still kind of neutral, leaning towards more of that ambitious career thing, which again, the Svadhisthana chakra planets, the moon planets, are not really supposed to do that. If left to one's own devices, this could be a combination that leads somebody to live their whole life kind of having their partner as just this sort of eye roll, sort of like thing this ball and chain I got to kind of carry around and deal with all the time. But then they'll do a whole bunch of things in their career, and they'll look back on their lives and say, wow, I wish I had actually enjoyed the sentimental experiences with the people that I had around me. So by the time you're 50, when you're doing the peak of your career, you've been drinking water. You've been drinking the water of the vital support from the love of those around you. You've been emotionally supported by those around you who actually want to support you because you actually want to support them. Because people aren't stupid, and they can smell when you've actually been loving them and not just using them as an emotional recycle bag for you to recycle your emotions through and then go and do your career through and then come back and, oh, I need you, I love you so much, and the person's like, people can see if you are essentially narcissistic. Ultimately, if the other person is kind of tuned to that drum as well, we have to be open about the fact that there are people, especially there are Sagittarius moons, who are narcissistic in this way and accept it, and they might attract a partner who can't really be bothered to have too much of a sentimental experience and just wants to do what they want to do in their life and have someone to hang out with, kind of be neutral, even passionate and sexy with, but like not deeply soul bonded. What I will say is I would highly recommend everybody watching at this point to consider that the Svadhisthana chakra is a part of the metaphysical dynamic of the occult laws of human energy. And what you might think that your soul experience is calling you to live out this kind of not really caring about the deeper aspects of the soul. You just want to get with someone who's functional enough to work with you so that you can psychologically be functional with them, not fight with them too much, and have a nice sexual experience and a sentimental enough experience. But I always recommend take some time to contemplate, meditate, especially for Sagittarius moon, and even Scorpio Venus, meditate if you're in a relationship and you have a soul bond. Meditate if you're in a relationship, you're not sure if it's a good soul bond. Meditate if you're not in a relationship and you don't think you care. And come to a place where, I highly recommend, especially Sagittarius moon likes wildness, go to a river, listen to some birds, sit down and for 10-15 minutes a day, see how long you can listen to the world outside of you without having the internal soundscape of your own inner gears causing you to think about some new ambitious plan to do with your boss at work, or some creative project, or even something that you want to do with this person and this person and this partner. Meditate and observe detachedly the compulsive nature of your mind. Then you will see how the compulsion of Sagittarius moon coming up in this way will obstruct you from actually listening to your superconscious, essentially. The deeper parts of your soul that yearns to have more than just a life lived for what you do. The sun. If you contemplate, you will find that the dry Svadhisthana chakra, you will get pining of loneliness at some points in your life, whether you realize it or not, or you might not think about it, and it's something worth shedding your compulsions of your ambition of wanting to do things and listen to what your whole energetic telephone is signaling for you regarding what could be a dry Svadhisthana chakra in this case. Listen to it and experiment beyond the brinks of the life that you've always known, and you might find that your whole system works in better equilibrium. It's one of those things astrology teaches us, is that everything we experience, even with the moon and Venus in these two sign placements, it's just by sign, but even if they are very weak, even if the moon is closer to the new moon and it's balsamic and it's conjunct Saturn or whatever, ultimately all these debilitating things are astral sphere karma. And there's a transcendental witness that watches above it and can learn to sublimate the ill karmas from the past and be detached and objective about the past programming from past action that would make us think that we don't want a soul connection with those around us. Something to consider. Ultimately, whatever you've got going on with these planets in this combination, I recommend you meditate and look at the compulsion so you can see when your masculine-driven water planets, again, you'll attract people who appreciate for what you do. And, the moon and Venus are supposed to be, they work smarter, not harder. That's how they're supposed to work. By connecting with people who have shared values and a shared soul goals, you give the water of your passion to them and your actual genuine care and concern. and they will give it back to you so that you can share in that, so that you have water. You know, the water Svadhisthana chakra douses the Manipura chakra, the fire chakra, so it's not as intense, so that you can balance in a balanced way. You know, essentially what this does is it gives you an erotic psyche foundation, so that when the moon goes and does the networking that Sagittarius moon does at work, when you're talking to lots of people and helping lots of people at work, you have an erotic psyche foundation, because people can smell that you got someone at home who is showing you a sentimental experience of life. And people will trust you in business. Even though business and emotions are two different things, it's Cancer and Capricorn, they're at opposites from each other, and they interlink. They're holding the same stick. So people in the business world trust somebody who has a home experience that is rich and fulfilling. Something to keep in mind. Ultimately, Scorpio Venus is going to have this passion. It's going to have this desire to merge with people outside of the relationship, but the Sagittarius moon may cause you to be very independent thinking. Both of these masculine placements of these water planets makes it so that you ought to lend a little bit of your energy towards quieting your mind and trying to find a partner who actually functionally works with you, but also is someone that you kind of want to not just be sexy about and lusty about. Don't go for the one with the big cans or the big masculine manly chest, or, you know, anything in between. You know, see past the easy things that most people would be enamored by, and try to connect to someone that is objectively has positive qualities that most people will dig. Secondary, but first, primary, find someone that connects with your soul, that feels like they're burning the same log that you are. And it'll carry you a little bit farther. It'll make you want to sacrifice for them, and it will make them want to sacrifice for you. The problem here is that the Sagittarius moon has it's a mutable moon, and it wants to expand, and it wants to be free to expand at its own regard, in its own time. So when the boss gives you this opportunity for the fishing trip, you want a partner who you can, through Venus and Scorpio, use your pushing Mars to say, honey, we've been planning this May 2-4 weekend for 2 months. I have to not do it because this week my boss told me that there's this opportunity that I got to go and do. You want the freedom to do that. So this is why this freedom-seeking Sagittarius moon can bring out this 12th house energy. And it's wise for you to make sure that you're giving a little bit of both. Ultimately, you're someone who can play just as hard as you work. And you can give a delicious experience to a partner sexually, and you can serve them in such a big, deep way in order to retain the freedom that you seek. You know, promise your partner, honey, I'm going to get you back for this May 2-4 weekend. It sucks that I can't hang out with our friends and do the enjoyment of everybody like we typically would, but I'm going to get you back. We're going to have an experience together. I'm going to show you that I care about you and that we can still make these sentimental moments happen. And you will. You know, you probably will, and it will be good. And sometimes you just got to accept that nature of you to do the ambitious thing and to give your partner the thing. And sometimes it also means that you'll have to show your partner, you know, honey, 2 months later, it's July long weekend. The boss gives you another opportunity for the fishing trip. Boss, I respect you, but I fucked my wife over last time by not hanging out with her at the cottage. Let's do a rain check. This weekend I'm going to hang out with my lovey-dovey, and we're going to have a juicy time, because I got to show her that I'm also living for her as much as I'm living for the world around us. Something to keep in mind is an important thing for this combination. And as I said, the 12th house nature will make you internally sometimes feel like you're not getting enough of either. Lean at some level towards really being sympathetic to your partner, because you naturally are in a vulnerable position, at least by sign, where it comes to you listening to your partner's genuine needs, especially for men, especially as a man. Men with this combination will not listen internally to their instincts, or almost not even have the instinct to feed mutual reciprocal energy to their partner. And then they'll miss them, and they'll have emotional regrets and sentimental regrets. Women with this combination will have it already spinning. They feel regretful that they are going to have to choose one or the other. But the thing is that both could end up feeling like they have regrets one way or the other. Ultimately, if you lean more towards showing respect to your partner because it's something you're not inclined to do, it's probably, I recommend trying to listen to your partner and giving them the space and not always going towards what's good for you in your career within a balance. I've got Sagittarius Moon. I've got to hang out with my lover tonight. I want to hang out with her more, but because of me doing this video, I'm only going to have about an hour. I'm going to sleep with her. I'm going to go to her place, sleep with her, and then wake up, and we're both going to go to work at 9 in the morning, and I'm not going to get much chance to hang out with her. It's because I'm doing this ambitious thing on YouTube, right? So it's that same kind of energy, and I'm aware of the dynamic, and I still do it. But I make my girl feel through the things that I do that I can ultimately show that she's just as important a part of my thing as me doing my thing myself. So hopefully I haven't just wrung out that same vibe too much. Ultimately, this can make for, on those moments, you've actually got a better Venus than I have. I have Venus in Virgo, and it's harder for me to make this kind of space. You're somebody who probably, the Venus is neutral in Scorpio. It's coming away from debilitation. It's leaning towards Pisces, which means that it has the ability to really be deeply enriched by sentimental experiences, and you probably do want it, and it's the nature of the want, just like drinking a glass of water. When a dog drinks water, it doesn't think, I've got to do this to survive. It just drinks it because it has known the experience of how good that is. Your Venus in Scorpio will passionately do things for people in order to serve them and be served, and that's drinking water, and you're getting the experience of knowing the importance of how much farther that water can take you. It's a much better placement than many of the other Venus positions for Sagittarius Moon. It is inclined to experience that water and then share it mutually. So consider that, And when you do make that connection, it is bound to be a juicy one, because you probably want to know how to show your partner a good time, to have fun, to be easy, and to be passionate, and to spend passionate energy digging deeply into whatever type of experience you want to share with your lover. By being in Scorpio, we know that there's that kind of juicy energy that's sort of there. Now, I've talked about it in my own way. Let's hear a little bit from Erotic Astrology by Phyllis Vega to sort of fill in the blanks and give us a view of what this person is like when they do bring it home to honey and they do give their partner a nice lovemaking experience. This is the Moon in Sagittarius with Venus in Scorpio. Your devilish charm draws many suitors, and it may seem that romance for you is nothing more than a series of adventures. However, nothing could really be further from the truth. Actually, you're a passionate idealist, and you take love very seriously. There's a deep Venus in the passion of Scorpio. Does want to have a deep blending experience at the heart level. Venus in some ways also relates to the heart chakra. It being in Scorpio means that there's an outgoing desire to have a sentimental love experience with somebody. And once you're involved, you do quickly dispense with your laissez-faire attitude and behave in a possessive and controlling manner. This can be here. Really, Western authors always put this with Venus and Scorpio, that they can be possessive and controlling. For me, it's more about the power dynamics that we've been talking about. How much time is your partner wanting to invest with you, and is it a mutual sentimental investment? This is what makes it tricky for you, because you want to have a secure emotional investment coming in from your partner, and you want it to be equal, but you have all these opportunities in your career that you want to say, you know, honey, it might be 60-40 here this month because you've given me more than I've given you, because I've had to gone out and do this ambitious thing. This is part of the, you know, despite that, please still hang out with me and give me what you would usually give me. This is that controlling possessiveness, but the Western authors often convey it as just possessive controlling for its own sake. It's coming from really a place of wanting to just have a mutual investment of sentimental energy. At some level, at least with the moon in Sagittarius, you have the capacity to give space for when a partner can't do that for you. At least you'll ask them, like, oh, we can't hang out this weekend because you've got this going on. That's okay. Right on. That's okay. You know, especially if they're doing something for their job. Just things will happen when it's like, again, you know, I want to hang out this weekend. Why can't you hang out this weekend? Oh, because you're going to see your friend Dave. Who's Dave? You know, like that can bring that kind of like thing. But again, ultimately, if you share the sentimental water of your love with your partner, and if you've been meditating, contemplating, making sure that the connection you have with your person is more than skin deep, then you won't really need to be possessive in this way. Although maybe you enjoy this kind of kink of being possessive in this way, ultimately the Sagittarius moon is not made because, you know, Taurus moon could have Venus and Scorpio and be possessive in this way, but they have developed on the moon sentiment at a constant way, where the sentimental life is more important than the ambitious life. So their you know, jealousy is like cute. Your jealousy can come off as like, why are you, you know, the partner thinks, why are you jealous of me hanging out with Dave when you just blew me off in the May 2-4 weekend for your asshole boss? You know what I mean? So you got to keep that, you got to reckon with that, you know? You'll get the trust that you seek if you put it in. And you'll get the actual trust that you want, the security that you seek, if you spend time sacrificing for the lover and show it and show that you care. And then you can be this kind of like possessive, jealous energy in a way that is coming from a genuine desire to show the person that they love you. But if you just wear it just for the sake of it, you could, you know, the masculine energy here could come off as it's saying that you're jealous or something, and it makes you look weak. Makes you look like your mouth is not where your money is, in a way. So do keep that in mind. But by sign, I wouldn't say that you are going to really be weak in this regard. You're not going to be jealous as an instinctive thing, especially if your Venus and Moon are well placed. If they're not, then this is an energy to be aware of. Your appetite for sensual pleasures is strong, and you do enjoy making love outdoors and under the stars. It's the adventurous energy that's kind of here, sharing those moments with your partner, right? So, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you kind of dug me sort of breaking these dynamics down. Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know if it was accurate to your experience, and you know, I hope that I did a good job of kind of painting a picture of this romantic moon energy. I'm Dustin Cormier for How to Rock Astrology. Hang out with me another time. Check out all the videos I got happening, because I've always kind of got more videos of this sort of coming out. So keep your eyes peeled and let me know what you thought. Thanks for watching.